Hey, what's up, everybody? This is an open discussion with C3 Films. My name is Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today we're going to be talking about the show Barry from HBO Max. So, if you guys haven't seen the show, there are 3 seasons out, and we just found out that there is a 4th season that's coming in April. So, if you haven't seen at least season 1 of Barry, we are going to be spoiling the heck out of it here. Go check it out on HBO, and then come and see what we have to say about it. But let's go ahead and jump right in. This was a show that we were doing because of the fact that we didn't even realize there was a new season coming out. We just thought it'd be cool to pair with the other show that we're going to be talking about in our other video, which is the part 2 of season 4. And Cheryl felt that it was a good show to pair with it, so we would go ahead and talk about it. I have never seen the show before. Cheryl has. So this was my very first time experiencing this show that apparently came out, I think, in 2018. And I knew that it was a show about a killer, a hitman, and I knew that it had comedic elements. I did not know to the extent how much it had in either direction of being serious or being a comedy. So it was definitely an interesting experience coming into it, not knowing that it would become about a hitman that wants to be an actor. But without like talking too much and going into it too quickly, I will just start by just saying that I really enjoyed the show. Finished it in 2 days.
Yay! Woohoo!
Finished his first season in 2 days.
Yeah, I totally binged it like all season 1 to 3 in like over the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I just finished it on
Oh, so
like
it's pretty new for you too.
I mean I'd seen it before, but I didn't know that there was a season 3 out. So we just wanted to refresh because I watched this back in 2018. So
Wow.
I started from season 1 because I wanted to like refresh my memory.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just enjoying it all over again. So first of all, it's Bill Hader,
Mm-hmm.
and he's pretty funny. And then we also have Henry Winkler, which is pretty dope to have. He's such a cool actor to have, and he's so fun in this. Also, he plays the acting teacher, and he's
Mm-hmm.
all about like it's hard to say like whether or not he truly cares about his students or if he just is there like he's like a washed up actor and he this is like the only way that he can make money right now because he's so out of his prime and and he's like just trying to milk the money
Right.
because I think they like somebody dies in his class and he's like you still have to pay for class but class is canceled. So he's like that kind of guy, like he's just kind of penny pinching, like milking the money.
Mm-hmm.
um and then you have like Bill Hader, who he's like super serious and he's like it's kind of like a midlife crisis kind of
Yeah.
because he's like it starts with him being kind of like, oh, I don't really like feel fulfilled killing
Yeah.
people, and then he has to like kill this guy, and then he tracks him down, and it's the acting student, and he walks in there and he kind of accidentally gets involved in it, and then he's like, yeah, I want to be an actor because he's on the stage and they applaud him, and he's like, I like this, and
It's like, it feels good.
yeah, and then he like gets into pursuing it, and then of course we have his love interest Sally, and we could go from there.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure how far this show would lean in either direction, and I think I was surprised at how funny it legitimately is. There were times when I would actually bust out laughing, like not just full, like not just like a little chuckle, like legitimately bust out laughing because something is that hilarious, and then in the next moment, it's a really deep scene where people are talking about like bad things that have happened to them or like their past or stuff, and it's like, and it's very well acted, and you're just getting grossed because of the drama. Like, if there's a way that I could describe this show, it would be that the dramatic scenes are very dramatic, and the comedic scenes are very comedic, but not in like a slapstick sort of way. There is a kind of dark sense of humor to the show, but at the same time, there are things that are just funny just because they're just funny because this is how people can be. This is like poking fun at how actors behave or how people behave in situations. Or one of the things that you always like to do in shows like this is that you want to give the main character some type of strange quirk. And so like in Dexter's case, it was the fact that he didn't really have connection to his emotions, because that part of him was kind of like killed off, so he had to learn how to like fake it. And and he had to figure out how to deal with his desire to like kill. Barry doesn't want to kill. As a matter of fact, he wants to like move so far away from that, but he also has a similar thing where he isn't really in touch with who he is. He's just somebody that's been locked off and has just had to do nothing but kill people for such a vast majority of his like adult life. So he doesn't really know how to connect with others. He doesn't really know understand like what it means to like have like certain like relationships with people. And so he has to the interesting thing about the show is that he has a profession that asks for him to be anonymous, but he actively is getting involved with something that, if it results in success, means that everyone will know what he looks like. So these are two worlds that are diametrically opposed, and they're actively clashing with each other, but almost kind of like a superhero, or even kind of like Dexter, and a little bit um, and same thing in You. These people are trying to like merge. They're trying to have the best of both worlds. They're trying to have like they want to. In his case, he wants to get away from this life, but he keeps getting pulled back in, and it is how he pays the bills. But he's like, well, maybe I can do this, and at the same time, maybe I can also still act. And the season is kind of the fallout of him making choices that result in worse things happening, which I'll get more into in a bit.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because like it's another one of those where you root for your main
The villain.
character even though
Mm-hmm.
they are like a really bad person because they're murderers.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting how they find a way to make you want them to succeed and you want them to get away with it. And it's kind of like the best formula for a show because it's so easy to like pull them into situations where you're like, how are they gonna get out of it? How are they gonna get out of it? And like it's exciting because of that. The thing I think about like or like the if we're gonna look a little bit deeper into like the soul of Barry, it's just like he's trying to be a good person, but then like can he really like he just like like you said he keeps getting pulled back into it, but he's does he really like because then he he does like such a good job throughout the season like not killing people because he doesn't kill his classmate Ryan. um that's actually what's his name, Hank, NoHo Hank, who
Mm-hmm.
I love. He also plays Zaz on in Gotham.
Yes,
Love that guy.
yes,
I freaking love that guy.
Anthony Kerrigan.
Yeah.
When I saw that he's on the show, he is an absolute treasure. Like
Yes.
when he played Zaz, he was
He
great,
was
and in
good.
this,
Yeah.
he's not exactly like Zaz. He's like a little less unhinged than Zaz is in Gotham, but he still is kind of like off-putting in some cases, but then he's also super friendly, and you're kind of like you just love him. You're like,
Yeah.
I'm so happy he survived the season because and like he actually becomes cool with Barry. He's like, yo, dude, it's just like I want you to do this, and Barry's like, man, screw you, and he's like, you don't mean that. Come on, you don't really mean that. And I was just like, this man is a treasure, and by the end he actually tries to help Barry, and he not only helps Barry, but when he sees that Barry succeeded in saving his handler, then he's actually happy for him. He at first he's like, "What happened?" And then he realized that Barry did it, and then it brings a smile to his face. So and Barry couldn't care less about this guy, but at the same time, in that final episode of the season, Barry did say thank you to him for calling and giving him the information. So
Yeah.
it's great.
There's definitely a lot of interesting relationships. There's a lot of push and pull between like the characters because Barry, he wants to get out, but then he's roped in and he's tied to these people, but then they betray each other and then they become friends again and they don't, and there's all this back and forth. But like to kind of go back to my thought earlier, I was kind of trying to get at like how he's trying to be a good person and he does a really good job, but then he gets kind of pushed into situations where he has to make a choice. Like he's been thus far making the choice to try to be a good person, and he's kind of forced into and kind of accidentally getting lucky with, you know, people who like he needs to get rid of or kind of taken care of on their own by other people, and his hands are clean. But then he gets to this point like later in the season. I don't know if you got there already. I think you got there because you're like kind of nodding.
I finished the season.
Oh,
I was
you
just
finished
thinking
it.
about I just was thinking about how he literally went and strangled that one dude that was speaking in Spanish that said you don't have to do this. Like he still does kill a fair amount of people in this season, and
Right.
and by the end he's actually killing more people that arguably don't deserve it.
Yeah, but like he was. What I mean is that he wasn't killing people that were like good people, like Ryan
Hmm.
and Chris, and then
Well,
allegedly.
no, he killed Chris by the end.
No, no, yeah, and then, but I mean,
Mhm.
the detective.
Oh yes, I mean he most likely killed the
Most
detective.
likely, yeah.
Based on how that season ends, yes. And yeah, those were probably the people that don't deserve it, but then he killed all the other Chechnyans. And that's the thing that like gets me is like he's actually really good. He's like really good. They show you that he is good at what he does. Like he kills the best Chechen assassin and jokes about how he
How he's
wasn't that
like a
good.
yeah, because he killed him so easily. So that's like the dark humor part of it, right? There's also like other funny moments where like they get like freaking Hank brings the lipstick cam with him and it
Mhm.
records the murder of Ryan and how like he's shooting the Chechnyans, um and then like they get like a photo of Barry, and then the detective goes to the acting class and like hands out photos, and he's like sweating like, oh my god, they got a photo of me, they got a photo of me, and then we see the photo. Then, and I think she says something like, if anyone's seen this photo, and then you can hear Jean, the teacher in the background, say a very what does he say, like a not illegible but like something along those lines of like a
Mhm.
not like a photo of someone that's not discernible.
Yeah, non-discernible man. Call her.
Yeah. And like that stuff is so good, and you get like little drops of that throughout, like it like that's a very tense moment in the show because you're like, oh my god, like how is he gonna get out of it? And how he gets out of it is like there really is like this photo is not clear, so this is gonna go nowhere.
Yeah, it just always gets me because like those moments are very funny, and so then you forget, and then the show reminds you that it can be very, very dark, and it's probably the best scene that I've seen so far. But the moment with Chris, by the way, I just want to say like one of the things that really strikes me is how this show kind of evokes similar feelings as Breaking Bad. One of the things about Breaking Bad was that it always felt very grounded and very real, and then even with how like the edits and things were handled in that show, there was a kind of rawness like to it where it just felt authentic. And Barry has that same feeling. Like one of like the cliffhangers that really got me was this moment when I forget the soldier's name, but the crazy soldier that ends up getting roped in, that ends up basically getting involved with him, and they're like doing the bum rush in the car, and as they're driving, like he's just shouting like, "No, we gotta stop, no!" And then before that, he has this moment where he tries to get Chris out of the car, and he's just like, get out," because he puts it all together in a moment, and he's like, this is bad and this guy's not ready for it, but then Chris doesn't listen. And so then when they're in that car and they're driving and he's like telling them, no, don't do this, like the music cuts out and it's like all silence. You hear like gunshots like in the distance, and then like a split second later it's like bullet holes, blood, car flips, cut to black, and it's just like, and then there's like no music, and you're just like, I was laughing like 10 minutes ago, and now I'm sitting here just dumbfounded and
Mm-hmm.
awestruck. And then like in the very next episode, like the best scene that I think I've seen so far is that moment when Chris is talking to him in the car, and Chris is just like, I can't do this. I'm going to the cops. And then Barry just yells at him like, why did you have to say that? And you see the realization on Chris's face, that's like, that realizes that, oh right, this guy this guy can kill me, and he's probably going to. So I need to like now talk myself out of this situation. And when the car drives up and it's like, that's my lifeline. This guy that's like just checking the top of his vehicle is the one thing that's keeping me from getting killed. The moment he leaves, I need to make sure that Barry is on my side or else I'm dead. And he tries, and then it just doesn't work out, and it's like, it's really great because that whole thing happens because Barry chose not to kill the the guy who was the crazy soldier that he should have killed because of how crazy he was, and that directly led to him now having to kill Chris, who had a family and was just a normal guy. And that's the like really great thing about the show is just how it's structured. It like you talk about choices, these choices that he makes leads to him having to do actions that he would not have had to do if he made a different choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it gets like, I wish I could talk about the other seasons too because of like all the crazy turns and stuff, but oh man, it's like it's so tense. I feel like you you really get kind of like dumbstruck. Like you're just like cannot believe what you're seeing at sometimes, and then um but then like you come down again because they rope you back in with like comedy, and then you can like enjoy yourself again, and then something crazy happens again, especially like at the end of the seasons. That's when it like it really gets intense. But I honestly, I can't wait for you to watch season 2 and 3 because it's so it's kind of neat because there's stuff in season 1 from the very first episode that comes into play later, and I'm like,
Mm,
oh wow, they're taking this moment and like it's important here later in season 3. So I thought that was cool because like that just kind of goes to show how much thought is put into the structure of the whole show as
mm-hmm.
opposed to individual seasons, not kind of flowing together. Like it's all one story that goes together and they're all like connected, as
Nice.
opposed to like different chapters.
I see. That's pretty cool, and that's like something that the chat is like also seems to to agree with you on, that season 2 and 3 just get better, which is great to hear because like you love to hear things about like that about shows like this. And I can only imagine like the way that this show like elevates tension is really great because I thinking about it now a little bit deeper, I never really think that I'm worried that Barry himself is not going to survive, but I think I worry about the people around Barry. And I think even though I don't really care about Chris that much as a character, um up until that point, but in that point, I think there's a mixture of two things that are at play. I don't want that character to die because that character literally didn't do anything, but also I know that Barry doesn't want to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it really comes down to, the fact that he doesn't want to do it. And so I don't want him to have to do it. And that's where I think more of this tension like comes in, because you know that he can. And like that plays in the last episode when he and the detective, and I love how the detective figures it out. Like these shows in the last episode, they always have these moments, and that got me because I thought it was a daydream, because they start doing this thing where he starts having these daydreams that aren't real, and they just kind of cut them in real quick, just randomly. There's no like real, there's no rhyme, there's no real like or anything else like that. They just cut to it, and you're just
Yeah.
in a different scene. But and so when they go to the part where it's like some time has passed, you think it's a daydream, but as they don't cut away, you're like, oh, this is actually happening, because he's dating her, and they're like, and the cop is with the teacher, and oh, okay, this is, they're visiting each other. Okay, this is reality. And so then that moment when she like goes and checks out everything, and she figures out who he is, and they have that talk, and he's walking away, and then they pan to the tree, and they show the gun hanging on that tree, and he makes one final plea to just say, hey, we don't have to do this. You know that he is going to have to kill her, and you know that he doesn't want to, and you don't want him to have to. And that's like where the tension is, on top of the fact that in this case we've been following the detective, so we do care a little bit more about her than I would argue that we cared about Chris. But it is ramped up from the fact that you know that he can kill her, and that he will kill her if he has to, but you know he doesn't want to, and so you don't want him to. So that's what I just, that level of tension that the show just captures is just, it's brilliant. It's so good.
Yeah, that part does seem like a dream, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It's crazy. But they play it well. That's one of the things, they use a motif that they established throughout the show to have a momentary thing where they trick you at the end, even if it's just for like a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes. They use it, and then they use it to trick you, and
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, and I have to say that's pretty consistent throughout the next two seasons. So like binging it from 1 to 3, I definitely could barely discern from where the seasons start and end. So that's also a really nice thing. Like the flow of it is very continuous and consistent. So
Right.
I do
And
have
that's the
to
other, like,
say,
yeah.
oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's well acted. Like for a show that has actors trying to play at being bad actors, it's very well acted.
Yes, yeah. I'm just gonna say this because I know that everyone who has watched all of the seasons up to season 3, they will want to hear me say that Sally's fucking annoying. She's the worst. But you think she is bad now? God, I hate her.
Yeah, I was shying away from talking about her, but yes, that character is the literal worst. And at first I was just thinking, maybe I don't like this character because the character is opposed to my main character, but my main character, Barry, is actually being a creep. So maybe, some of this is actually warranted. But as she keeps going, I'm like, oh no, you're just a genuine jerk. You're a genuine jerk. So no, I feel nothing for you. You're a user, you're a manipulator. No, I'm good on you. You're actually a jerk. So
It's funny because like they put her next to Barry and it makes you wonder, like, is Barry actually a better person than her?
with all the people that he kills, is he a
Yeah.
better person than her?
Exactly. No, I think that's exactly why they made her like that. So,
Yeah. No, true. There's another moment that I just came to mind when we're talking about that actress and how she annoys us, or like good, well acted scenes. I was thinking about the scene where they talk about the murderers, where they're talking about Macbeth, Lady Macbeth, and can they be redeemed, or who's a killer and who's a murderer and whatnot. And then it's like I think it's one of the first times I really think I've seen, like, I remember seeing Barry getting like super emotional and heated, where he talked about him. But it's this great thing where he has these moments when he comes out and he's like being really truthful. Like, this is something the show also does over and over again. He has these moments of truth that everyone just assumes is him talking about something else, whether he's admitting to what he does and the teacher thinking it's a monologue, or him talking about being a murderer, but people think he's talking about his time in the Marines, or when he's giving her a line where he's crying while giving the line because he's so beat up over the fact that he had to kill Chris when he didn't want to. So like he has all these very real moments that people think he's talking about something else, but he's kind of like telling them exactly who he is. And those scenes are also just really well done.
Yeah. And there's just like one last thing that I want to kind of talk about real quick, which doesn't exactly have too much to do with Barry, but
Mm-hmm.
it does in the sense of like how they showcase acting. And
Mm-hmm.
at first, you don't really think that that Henry Winkler's character is really trying to teach them, because he's just kind of like yelling them and like telling them they're bad at their job at the, or like they're bad at acting. But what it
Mm-hmm.
comes down to is like, and I think, you know, as the season goes on, it's more and more apparent that like actually he is a very good teacher, because he's trying to get them to focus on like their real feelings, like to use their real emotions to put into the acting. And like that's one thing that I kind of learned from like my acting experience, because I did a little bit. um
I did too.
yeah, and like the thing that's like the hardest to do, and why like I would never really want to pursue acting, is because of how hard it is to do, because you really have to put yourself in that vulnerable place where, you know, you're, it's like you're exposing yourself. You really do feel
Yeah.
vulnerable, because you are, you know, being open and honest with people, in the sense of like allowing yourself to feel something that you don't want to feel. Like
Yeah.
in your day to day, you would never want to feel that. And like the best example of that is when that Macbeth scene where Barry is feeling the things he's feeling from killing Chris as like this horrible, horrible thing. But it gives him the best performance of his life, because
For one line.
yeah, for one line. And I like how they show the different layers of that, like of how if like you, the different deliveries of the all these different scenes and all these different lines, and they show it in these different levels of emotion, of like how, when they're using real feelings versus not using real feelings, or like different levels of feelings. So I just want to say like that they did such a great job exposing that world to like the general public, of, because I know not a lot of people actually understand that that's what actors have to
That's
do.
what's happening.
Yeah.
Yep. Not many people have audited a class. I've audited acting classes before. I've done like improv and things like that. So yeah, like all that stuff was very recognizable. It was interesting to see it on display here because if you're a casual viewer, you might just think they made it up for the show. It's like no, this is actually what goes into it. This is what they actually do. The
Yeah.
people might be a little exaggerated, but the exercises and things that they like do to get themselves there as these are actual
Mm-hmm.
practices that are used in acting,
Yeah.
so in acting classes specifically.
Yeah.
But
I have cried in class before, and I needed a timeout. Like I had to like go home, and like people had to hug me and stuff so I could feel better after. It gets really intense, but like that's just, again, like that's exactly what Barry was going through, and that's exactly what they showed us in the show, and I actually really appreciated that.
yeah, agreed. So I be watching more? Absolutely. I will probably watch some more while I'm working tomorrow. Because it's an easy show to watch while I work, and it's also just really like it's really easy to get through too with half an hour episodes. So yeah, I'll probably be caught up by the time season 4 starts. So I'm excited to keep going. But what did you guys think about Barry? Have you guys are you up to date? Have you seen season 1? Did you enjoy it? Do you love the characters? Do you hate Sally? Is it a show that you're looking forward to seeing when it comes out in April for season 4? Are you hoping that it keeps going, or are you hoping that it ends? Whatever you thought about it, comment below. Let us know. And while you're down there, if you guys would like, share, and subscribe. Even if you don't, though, I have been Chris, and this has been
Cheryl, and I hate Sally.